type them in the chat, and I'll make sure to ask Linda so that we don't have a lot of background noise and etc. So sorry, Linda, I just wanted to make sure people knew it was being recorded, and that if they have questions, they should post it in the chat. And I'm going to post the recipe in the chat right now.
Okay. So just a few disclosure things. I'm not at all a chef. I'm just someone who likes to cook for my family. And the other thing is, this is a recipe that I learned from my grandma Rachel, who I'm proud to say I'm named for. And I was very close with her all our growing up. And it happens to be that her niece and two of her daughters, my Auntie Marlene Mann from San Francisco, my Auntie Mimi from Campbell, California, and her husband, my Uncle Reuben, they happened to be on, and my cousin Regina, who's my grandmother's niece. So I just want to tell you all that this is my version of how I remember Grandma's Karnabit. I don't want to tell you this is an exact recipe, so that if I'm doing something that you do a little bit differently, you would know that this is just how I remember how Grandma made Karnabit. So I just want to disclose that. And with that, let's start making it. So I happen to have my ingredients already. I already cut my cauliflower. I don't think I cut cauliflower in any particular amazing way. So, but if anybody wants to see me do it, I'm happy to, or we can just go right into getting ready to the frying. So I don't know if anybody has any, maybe just by a show of hands or something, because I still can see pretty much all of you. Should we just go right into the frying? Okay, I think that's what we'll do. So I'm going to go ahead and take this up. Now I also have my onion already prepared for the tomate, for the sort of comida part of this dish. So you may want to do that if you haven't done that already. Just chop up the onion, and then I'm going to put the oil in the pan. I need to move my laptop over to the other side where my stove is, where I'm going to cook, and then I'll prepare the, well, actually I'll do that in a second here. Take the flour for the frying. So I'm doing probably a little more than what you need, just because I don't want to have to stop and put more in. So I'm going to put it in a flat pan to be able to put the cauliflower in. I've got 2 eggs here. I'm just going to scramble them up like this. I think you probably all pretty much know how to do. And I'm actually going to stick the 3rd one in, even though I may not need it, but I don't want to have to mess with it after. Okay. Now I'm just going to put on my surgical gloves here to do this, because I want to be able to, if I need to move the laptop around so I can show you what I'm doing, I can take them on and off. Okay, and then I'm going to move us over to this part of my kitchen. And I'm going to get the vegetable oil, and I'm going to put the vegetable oil here. I'm going to coat the bottom of the pan, but this is, this is a pretty deep pan. But the cauliflower doesn't need to be drenched in the oil. It can, because we're gonna turn it around. So I'm gonna there. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on. Kind of a medium heat. Let it get heated up. I'm going to bring the cauliflower over. Now,
Linda, can you show everyone how big the cauliflower pieces are that you're using?
know if you can see. Carol,
Yeah, I pinned your video so we can see. It's perfect.
okay, you can see it, okay? All right.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the cauliflower. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. I have like a baking pan with some, with a paper towel in it, because once I'm done with the frying, I'm gonna put it in here, let it drain a little bit, then prepare the tomate, and then transfer it over. So this way it'll be able to drain some of the oil from the frying. So I'm going to put a little tiny bit of, just a little bit of salt in the flour mixture, rather than salting the cauliflower. And I don't want it to be too salty, but I just find that it, you know, it'll kind of give it a little more flavor if I do that. I'm just going to put it like a little, kind of a little pinch of the kosher salt in there. Bring my egg mixture over.
Linda, can you show everyone what you did with the onion? Is it diced? And
It's
also,
diced. Yeah, I did dice it.
boil the cauliflower.
I'm sorry?
Did you lightly boil the cauliflower?
No, I did not. So one of the things about this recipe is that you actually put the cauliflower in the flour first, and then in the egg, and then I think it's getting hot enough where I can almost start. So I'm gonna take a couple pieces of the cauliflower and put it in the flour and just sort of turn it around. Now, I cut this cauliflower earlier, and so it's not wet, but when you put it into the flour, the flour will still stick to it. No oils.
Linda?
Yes?
Are you able to show people how you're dipping the cauliflower? It's quite a little bit off screen so people can't see.
So I'm putting it in the flour. I've got several pieces in here now, and I'm just turning it around, letting it get coated with the flour. And I think the oil is hot enough. Well, let's try one. So I'm gonna now dip it in the egg mixture. And then put it into the fry pan. Actually, maybe turn it down a little tiny bit. So I'm gonna do that now with all these pieces. Now, I'm making this vegetarian, but it can be made with meat. It's really nice with lamb. And when I do make it with lamb, so that'll go into the tomate part. After we saute the onions, then I usually put the lamb in on top of the onions, but I'm not gonna make it with the lamb today. And I'll get a few more pieces in there in the flour.
I see quite a few people cooking while you're doing
Good. So again, just putting the cauliflower pieces into the flour. So when I was growing up, we lived right next door, actually right in front of my grandparents' house, and we shared backyards. And we would go, my sister and I would go up to my grandma's house all the time to cook with her. It was one of the most fun things that we could ever possibly do was to go up and cook with Grandma Ray. And my grandpa would always be in the other room watching TV or reading the newspaper. And my grandma and my sister and I would just be chit-chatting in the kitchen and cooking. And typically we would always be cooking for some occasion. It would be either a holiday, or it would be that one of my aunts was coming, my aunt's from California coming up with the kids, or my aunt from Japan, may she rest in peace, who would come. And it was the most exciting time for us when we could go up and cook and bake with Grandma, knowing that our family was going to be coming up and we were going to get to see our cousins. I don't know, Auntie Marlene and Auntie Mimi, I don't know if you know how excited we used to be to have you come up and visit us in Seattle. And it would always mean that we'd be cooking with Grandma, making baklava or making bizcochos or some kind of fun thing. And we used to have so much fun doing it that we used to, my sister and I used to make up songs while we were cooking with her. So I'm going to start now turning some of the cauliflower around. I don't know, I don't know if you're going to be able to see. I can kind of get it up there a little bit where you can see. They start to get kind of browned. You want to flip it. Yeah, these are getting really nicely browned. And then I will transfer them over to the pan. Okay. We get a couple more pieces in there. We started out when I was really young that we would spend every holiday with my great-grandparents. I was so fortunate to have great-grandparents, you know, that I was old enough to actually remember. And we used to go to my great-grandma's house, and my great-grandma, Mazal Tov Hassan Al-Hadef, she was the one who taught my grandma Rachel Capeluto, how to cook. She was a wonderful cook, and I'm just fortunate that I was old enough to be able to even, you know, remember going to her house and remember having her wonderful food. And then we eventually moved on to spending all the holidays and every Shabbat with my papa and grandma in Seward Park. And since we lived right near them, we could just go up there anytime on Shabbat and spend every holiday with them. And it was always so fun. And that's where all the cooking would happen, would be right during those times, the holidays and the wonderful family visits. So I'm trying to now carry on this, like my grandma taught my mom and me, and now I'm trying to teach my daughter-in-laws and sons and my grandchildren, particularly the little girls. I'm trying to teach them these recipes also, and so I've had them over, or when I've been in New Jersey with them, I've taught them how to make borecas and bizcochos, and they're really good. They actually really get it and know how to do it, and I have to say that their shapes are even better than my shapes.
Yeah, Mia had an amazing time this summer making the borecas. And her shapes were pretty, they were good, right?
They were really good.
Yeah, she's learning.
So I'm going to start transferring some of these pieces now out of here. Now, can you see it? Is it close enough where you can see what it looks like?
Yeah, that's good, Linda.
Kind of golden. So some people parboil the cauliflower, but I don't, because I find once it's in the comida and it's kind of stewing in that in the sauce, it will get pretty soft on its own. So I just leave it. I don't parboil it. I put it in just raw. fill this up with some more. So I don't want to get too far ahead of those of you that are actually making it, but I'm probably not going to do all of this cauliflower. I'm going to do probably about half of it. And that way I can get the tomato mixture also kind of going. Let's see how we're doing for time here. So some of these are now also getting about ready to take out. When I'm baking with Mia Ray and with Raquel, my two little granddaughters, we also sing while we're cooking. And I tried to teach them some of the romanzas that I actually have learned from my grandparents. And we have great fun because they both actually have really nice voices and like to sing. Okay, so I'm going to take a few more of these pieces out of here. Let these cook up. Then I'm going to move this part out of the way. Okay, and then I want to start with the tomato mixture part. So we're going to saute onions. So again, I'm going to put actually much less oil in the bottom of the pan for that part, and to saute the onions. So this will be like, I think I had measured it out that it was probably about a tablespoon or maybe 2 tablespoons, but I don't think it has to be too much more than that. So I have my onions already chopped up, and they're just, I don't know if you can see, they're just like in little, you know, they're not, it's not super little pieces, but little pieces. Okay, so this is one onion. I'll let that saute, and I'm going to put a little bit of pepper over the onion. My grandfather, my papa, was really particular about about the food and how my grandma made it. And I mean, she was really particular too, and she was pretty artistic, and everything that she made was really perfect. Like everything was the exact same size. All the biscuits, you could just measure them with the exact same size. All the pieces of cauliflower are the exact same size. So I'm a little less perfect than that, but I think that stuff still tastes good. So I didn't inherit that little part from her. All right, so I'm just finishing up this cauliflower here, just getting it turned over, letting it get browned all over. The onion now is sauteing. You know, I would normally have my fan on, but I'm not going to put it on because I think it's going to make too much noise over the Zoom, but that would be what would normally be going on. These pieces out. All right. Is everybody doing okay? That's actually doing the cooking. Everybody getting the cauliflower cooked up. Okay, now in the for the tomato mixture, so I've got the onions kind of browned. Let's see if I can lift it up. Show you. Can you see that? All right. Okay, so they're getting browned, and I'm going to go ahead and put the tomato sauce in here. So if I was doing lamb, I would probably do like a shoulder chop. I would get like a couple, and I would put them in the bottom of the pan on top of these onions that are sauteing. So now I'm going to put the tomato sauce.
Linda, did you already put the lemon juice in the tomato sauce?
I have not put the lemon juice in yet. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to just mix this in. And now I'm going to put the lemon juice in. And a little bit of salt also.
Linda, are you able to move the pan that you're doing the onions into the front burner so it's easier for everyone to see?
Yeah, I could do that, actually. Sure. Okay, so again, I'm just going to take a little sprinkling of the kosher salt. Put it in there. It already has the pepper from before. So I made a juice of 1.5 lemons, but you don't need that much for in here because you don't want to overpower. I mean, this is really a recipe by taste, depending on how much lemon, how much of that flavor you like. So I'm going to just start out, you know, with a little bit, and then I'm actually going to taste it after I put the cauliflower in, and after it sits for a little bit, we'll see if I need a little more. I'll add a little bit more, and then the rest of it I'll use for a salad. We're going to have this tonight for dinner, so I'm going to make this with the arroz. Oftentimes I make this arroz with the garbanzos, but I'm not going to do that tonight. And then we're going to have it with the chopped Israeli salad, which would be tomatoes and cucumbers. I'm not going to make that. Chopped up small with olive oil and lemon dressing. So I'm going to put a little bit of the lemon in here. So I'm going to guess that was maybe half a lemon worth, maybe a little bit more than that. Mix it around. Then I'm going to start putting the, just going to turn this up a little tiny bit. Let me see if I can show you how this looks. So it's getting kind of now bubbly and nice. If you can see that, can you see it a little bit?
Yeah, that's good, Linda. Thank you.
Got it? Okay. So now I'm going to start popping the cauliflower. Well, I shouldn't say pop because I don't want it splattering all over my stovetop. I'm going to place it into the tomate mixture. In my family, growing up, holidays were, and Shabbat were actually huge, and particularly holidays involved a lot of preparation, food preparation, and who was going to be at our table. And it was really always a lot of fun. I just have like amazing memories of the sukkah that my grandparents would build during Sukkot. And my grandfather was fairly artistic, and he used to love to decorate it and make it really beautiful. And we would just have so much fun bringing our friends over there after services and eating all my grandma's wonderful delicacies. All right, so I've got it all kind of tucked in there. Once it starts cooking, it'll, kind of get a little bit smaller, fit a little bit better. I'm going to actually add a little bit of hot water into this, or you could actually put broth in here also. But I'm going to just put a little water because it needs to have just a little bit more liquid. So this is about a quart, maybe like a quarter cup of water, hot water. Then I'm going to put the top on. Now I'm actually going to move this again to a different burner to where I can play with the heat more, and I can have it at a good simmer. And then we're just going to let it sit and simmer.
Linda, do you stir the cauliflower gently before you cover it?
I just kind of, sort of shake the pan around a little bit. So I'm not, but what I do afterwards, after it's kind of cooking for a little bit, first of all, I'm going to make sure that it has enough, that it's enough lemon. I think it's enough lemon, so I'm actually going to take a little taste of it. And then I'll go and just take a spoon and sort of gently put the tomato sauce on top, and kind of push it down a little bit into the tomato sauce so it's really sitting in there. So let me just kind of do that right now. So this might need a little more liquid. It looks like it's pretty good. So it gets sort of nicely covered with the tomato sauce. Okay. Do that. So it's hot, so you have to be careful. But I'm going to take a little tiny taste from the side and just make sure that I have enough lemon juice in here. Oh, wow. It's perfect. Okay. Perfect, perfect. So now this is going to sit. In all the many times that I made this and practicing for today, because I actually tried to write down quantities and things like that, but I did forget to write down how much time I actually let it sit on top of the stove, because a lot of it is just by looking at it. You can kind of tell, like I just know what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to say that it can probably sit here from up to 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I mean, you can turn it down and really just let it simmer for quite a while. You want the cauliflower to be soft. If you put a fork in it, it should be fairly soft. And so I'm sorry I don't have a real exact amount of time, but I think if you do the little fork test, that'll give you a good indication that it's cooked. And now, so after this has been sitting here for a while, I would also put the stove on about 350, and I would take the pan and with the top off and put it in the stove and let it just for a little tiny bit bake, and everything gets kind of caramelized, and it's really good. You don't have to do that, but I like to do that with most of the comidas I make because I think it tastes really good that way. So now I'm going to let this cook, and then we can do the rice. I have no great secrets about rice. This new rice that I've been using, it's been coming out perfect every single time, but sometimes it can be, hit or miss with some of the other ones that I use. But like I say, it usually always tastes really good, even if it's not like perfectly grain by grain. So I already pre-washed a cup of rice, and like I said, I'm using this basmati rice. And so I pre-washed it. I put it in the pan with 1 3/4 cups water, because that's what it calls for, for this particular rice. So whatever your rice calls for, that's what you would want to use. Sometimes it's 2 cups to 1 cup, 2 cups water to 1 cup, but this is, I'm doing 1 3/4, and I'm going to put some olive oil and tomato sauce in it. I remember that my grandma used chicken stock. I mean, not always, but often for the arroz, and it's actually really, really good to do that. It really makes it flavorful. I'm not doing that today, but I have done it, especially, obviously, if I'm not making a meat meal, I don't use the chicken stock, but when I'm making meat in this and we're going to have meat, I'll use the chicken stock because it does make the rice really flavorful. So I'm going to put a little olive oil in it, a little salt, and the tomato sauce, and then we'll have that start cooking. And then we'll see, I know this hasn't been a half hour sitting here, but we'll kind of see how it looks after this gets going. So. And the olive oil is kind of what I would call a dollop. So I just kind of go, or maybe 1.5 dollops. Doesn't have to be that much. Again, a little sprinkle of the kosher salt. And then I think I use more tomato sauce in mine than my grandma used to do, or my mom used to do also. But I'm going to use 2 pretty much kind of heaping. This is just a tablespoon from my cutlery. So kind of 2 heaping tablespoons of tomato sauce. You can do more or less depending on your particular taste. I'm going to put it on and let it do the top. Okay, so I'm going to put it on. I'm going to actually, I'm not going to cover it all the way. I'm going to cover it just a little bit because I don't want it to go over on my relatively new stove. So I'm going to watch it really carefully. So let it cook. And I can see the cauliflower. It's very bubbly and looking like how it's supposed to look. So
there's
yes.
a question, is the rice a totally separate dish?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a totally separate dish. Like some people in my family, some of the kids and some of the adults, they like to have the whatever comida, they like it over the rice. And then of course we have the ones that like everything separate on their plate. So it is a totally separate dish, or you can mix it all together. But it just really complements the tomato lemony flavor of the cauliflower. So we're gonna let this cook. I actually want to do the fork test, so I'm gonna grab a fork. See how this is. Yeah, so it's already pretty soft. But I'm gonna let it sit more because I like when it gets really, you kind of turn some of the pieces over if they're not in the tomato sauce, so it gets all nicely covered. That cooks some more. And then, like I say, I just make a chopped Israeli salad. So I just take a couple tomatoes and a cucumber and chop it in small pieces. A little salt and pepper, a little lemon and olive oil. And I think that makes a really nice pairing with all of this. And you pretty much have a meal. I mean, you're missing the protein. So if I make this vegetarian, usually it means that we're going to have it with fish. So then we would have that as the protein. Or if it has the meat in it, then you've got a complete meal if you put the lamb in it. The rice is starting to boil. So I can see some of you, I'm just kind of wondering how everybody's doing with their Jamali. Yeah, you got a thumbs up from Jamali. Yeah, and Jenny, also thumbs up. Actually just gave the rice a little tiny bit of a stir. So now I'm going to turn it down to a simmer because it's starting to really boil. Watch it carefully so it doesn't go over the top of the pan. And then I did learn kind of a neat little thing from my other daughter-in-law, Jenny, not the one that's on here, but my other daughter-in-law, who's also Jenny,
I'm on here.
Oh, you're
I'm
on
on
there?
there.
Oh, hi, Jen.
Hi, everybody.
Is
I'm
Raquel
here.
with you?
No. She's not with me. I had my camera off for a bit because I had to just do something, but I'm listening.
So I'm just going to tell them about the neat trick that you told me about the rice. So,
Oh, yeah, that was, I think
yeah,
that's
so
for my grandma.
yeah, it's a great, great, and it's actually really worked for me. So I let it, boil. I put it on simmer, and then when you start seeing the little kind of holes that go in the, that kind of go on top, actually just turn it off, turn the stove off, and let it just cook on its own from there. And that does, I think that helps it come out also the grain by grain, if you like it that way, which a lot of people do. So now that I see that both of my daughter-in-laws are here, so I will tell you, I have the great good fortune to have two wonderful, beautiful daughter-in-laws who who come from more Middle Eastern cultures, and I've had a great time learning a lot of the food that they make, that their mothers make, and that they learn from their mothers and their grandmothers. And we, have had a fun sharing of recipes. Whenever I'm in New Jersey and I'm making something, my consuegra comes over to see what I'm doing, and then she'll call me to say that she tried it at home. And she's the one that actually taught me how to roll yaprakis, which they call yebra. And that was fun to sit with her and do that. And my consuegra from Israel, when she's here, she also makes wonderful Syrian and Iraqi dishes. And so I learned from her also. And then she usually leaves Seattle, and she'll leave my daughter-in-law with a freezer full of bulemas and borecas that she learned how to make from us. So it's a lot of fun sharing all the different recipes from the cultures that are, similar, but just a little bit different, spices used. And so it's, I have a lot of fun doing that with the girls.
Linda, I like
Yeah.
what you said. Jenny taught you to grate an onion and put it in cuajado for a little bit more savor.
Yes.
That's a trick.
Yes, it is. And actually they use a different kind of cheese also. So they don't use feta and the Parmesan, they use more of a Munster cheese. And it's really good. And you grate the onion and put the onion in there with the Munster cheese, and it's quite good. So it's different tasting than the cuajado that we make, but just a little bit different tasting, but very, very, very tasty, really good. So yeah, another thing that's become a family favorite is making what they would call kusa. So that's the zucchini, what we would call zucchini quesadilla. So my rice is now to that point where I'm seeing the little bubbles on top. So I'm actually going to turn it off now and just let it cook on its own. I'm going to do the fork test again with the cauliflower, because I would like to put this on a plate so that you can actually see it better than in the pot. So I would let this cook a little more if we, if I wasn't doing this on Zoom and we're kind of under a little bit of a time restraint. But it is fully cooked. And so I think it is probably okay. As soon as the rice is done, I will put it on a plate, and I'd like for you to be able to see what it looks like. I mean, it should look like the picture that maybe some of you saw on the flyer, but we'll do that in just a moment. I just want the rice to finish up, and then we'll go ahead and put it on a plate so you can see what it looks like, and be very interesting to see how I can do that without making too big of a mess.
Linda?
Yes?
Is the question, is your family from Greece or Turkey originally?
So my grandparents are from Rhodos, from the island of Rhodes in the Greek islands. And actually my husband's father is also from there. And I mentioned earlier in the when we were just sort of at Charles showing there at the beginning before we started, that I think I'm the 4th Capeluto woman to marry a man also named Capeluto, although he pronounces it Capeluto and spells it a little bit differently. But so his family is also from there. But as far back as we can go, I don't think we're related. My grandfather said we were not related to any other Capelutos. So I don't know if that was true or not. But we can't figure out, can go pretty far back and we cannot see any relation to each other. So yeah, they're from the island of Rhodes. My grandfather came over as a older teenager, and my grandmother was a little girl when she came over. So she really spoke, perfect English without any kind of accent. My grandfather, he spoke very good English also, but he did have a bit of an accent. And they came here, well, my grandfather came here, I think kind of in the early 1900s. They ended up getting married in Seattle and started a manufacturing business here, which was my grandma's idea. She was pretty forward-thinking woman. So she wasn't just all about cooking with my grandma. She was a businesswoman also, and very bright, and raised, really an amazing family, 4 children. My dad was the oldest, and 3 sisters, one who we unfortunately lost this year, my Auntie Betty, may her soul rest in peace, and my Auntie Marlene and my Auntie Mimi. Thank God they're here, actually on this Zoom, and really quite thrilled to see that they're here joining us. So that's a little bit about my family. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to turn the Karnabit off so I can get a plate for it. Actually, I'm going to let it sit here while I get the plate, and then I'll get that organized. I'm probably going to move the laptop back over to this other area where I have more room, and then we'll go ahead and plate this. So, and I am going to put the Karnabit on top of the rice, but it doesn't have to be served that way. It can be served, I mean, I would normally serve it just separately, but it looks pretty to do that. So 1 second. Just moving some things around so I can get back over to this area. I'll move you back over here. Now, let's see here. Yeah, so you can see the plate. Get this stuff out of the way. So the rice, thankfully, came out pretty nice. And go ahead and put this on the plate. Okay. Karnabit over here. So I can't tell exactly how much you can see. If you can see
Oh, that's good, Linda. Everyone, it's perfect.
Okay, good. Wow, it smells really good. Really, really good. Okay, so I'm gonna leave some in the pan here.
Looks
So
amazing, Linda. Good job.
Yeah. So it smells really yummy. This is gonna be, maybe we're gonna have to have it for lunch and not for dinner. I don't know if I can wait that long. So that's Karnabit, carnados. And like I said, I'm gonna make my little chopped Israeli salad to go along with it. And that's what we'll have for dinner. And this is something very typically that we'd have on Friday night or during a holiday meal, which I can't ever emphasize enough how important that time is for my family, my sons and daughter-in-laws, how it was with when my parents were living, and my grandparents. I have nothing but amazingly fond memories of cooking with my grandparents, cooking with my parents, and now I'm hoping to make new memories for my grandchildren and my daughter-in-laws and my sons, cooking with them. Oh, I should say my grandsons also, because they also enjoy being in the kitchen. So to my whole family, I hope to make new wonderful memories with them and cooking our wonderful Sephardic delicacies. So thank you so much for being here with me in my kitchen. It's really been a pleasure. I wish that I could be with you in real life, but this is very nice. Oh, look at Jamali.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much, Linda.
Any other questions?
Linda,
Everyone's saying thank you, and it was such a great thing.
your grandmother would be so proud of you. I can just hear her talking about you always.
Thank you.
She was a wonderful, wonderful person and a great, great cook.
Thank you.
So thank you.
So much, Linda. Thank you. It was just a wonderful program, and so glad we can see you and learn from you, and to also remember lots of fond memories.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful memories for sure.
Dichos manos.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was great.
Joining us, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, so happy. Enjoy your b'teavon, hearty appetite. Enjoy your meal.
Come kungana.
Kungana. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Nina.
Oh.
Bye, Nina.
And the folk who cooked it,
Oh.
Yeah. See you. See, there's John Lay. Who else do you know this? Who else do you recognize? Other people? Yeah. Thank you.
Linda, someone's asking, is it a Rodizli or Turkish recipe? Do you know?
I think it's a Rodizli recipe, but I don't know, because I'm trying to think. I think my mother-in-law made this too, and she actually was Tikir Leon's mom. So
Sephardic.
yeah, we'll just say all around Sephardic. Yeah.
Very good. That was great.
It's fun.
Yeah. Smells good.
Doesn't it smell good?
It smells really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to have it with salad. Yeah. Okay, now what?
So everybody cooked theirs? Did they,
I cooked mine. But
I mean, the other people that cooked? I wanted to see it. Oh, well.
Oh, let's see. Bernice kind of walked away from did she cook? It looks like she did too.
Bernice was cooking, I think.
And I think, and Jenny was cooking.
Yeah.
They're still probably working on it. It takes time to.
Bernice, were you cooking?
I'm cooking. It's hard to watch a frying pan and concentrate at the same time. But
I know. It is hard.
So I don't even know what I'm cooking, but it's fun.
That's
I
cool. That's
still
cool.
saw it earlier, so that's why it was ready on time.
Yes.
So
Fun. Thank you so much.